Everything stated on WTF Nation Radio is to be considered the opinion of the person that stated it, and not an official representation of WTF Nation Radio or U.S. Army WTF Moments.
Price does not include tax, title, or license. Some assembly required. Each item sold separately. Batteries not included. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If conditions persist, contact a physician. Individual results may vary. Keep out of the reach of children. Avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight. Keep in a cool, dark place. And
Please enjoy the show. Shots.
WTF Nation Radio. WTF Nation Radio.
Hi, Lieutenant. How are you doing? Aw, did you find your land nav point, Lieutenant? Good job, Lieutenant. You get a
Expert Action Badge.
put on your uniform right,
Expert Action Badge.
show up to work on time,
Expert Action Badge.
qualify on your weapon,
Expert Action Badge. Badge of Action.
find your guidon.
Expert Action Badge.
That's right, just doing your noble warrior task and drills, you get a
Expert Action Badge.
each item sold separately. Batteries not included. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If conditions persist, contact a physician. Individual results may vary. Keep out of the reach of children. Avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight. Keep in a cool, dark place. And
Please enjoy the show. Shots.
Shit in a bag, Pogue. Badge of Action. The voice of U.S. Army. WTF Moments. This is WTF Nation Radio. Action Badge. Broadcasting live from the basement of the Pentagon. This is WTF Nation Radio.
You know, I would love to figure out how my truck fits inside the basement of the Pentagon, but I'll fuck it. It's St. Manus' domain. Good afternoon, everybody. It is KJ here with Jose's Taco Truck. Drunk as usual and doing donuts outside the Functional Veteran Center of Excellence. And holy fucking shit. Okay, before I start with news articles, before I start talking about ISIS or fucking Texas representatives or any of that shit, I'm going to talk about something very near and dear to my fucking heart. Which is, if you have an idea and it doesn't seem like the most genuine idea. I mean, it's not original. Most original idea. Google that shit. Oh, God, my voice just cracked. That's how fucking tired I am. Google that shit. Verify that you're right. You know, that if other people are doing that idea, maybe link up with them. And you may went, well, where is this coming from, KJ? Well, I'll tell you. Last night, my retarded ass stayed up and watched several fucking hours of John Burke playing PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And of course, he's not half bad. I'm not going to argue it. He's not half bad. Okay, he got his ass whooped a couple times. He did okay a couple times. It's a game. Good for him. I'm glad he played. I hope to go against him again at some point. That'd be great. Now I got another person other than Dr. Disrespect and fucking Shroud. But as I'm scrolling through the group that he's advertising, that he first advertised on Facebook, I start seeing, I wonder if there's I have an idea for an organization that we can build computers and tablets and stuff like that and get them out to troops and injured soldiers. And I'm sitting there and there's already groups that exist. Go link up with them. And I'm not saying don't start new things. Remember, competition is part of capitalism. But there's plenty of groups like that exist. Just like there's plenty of internet radio shows and podcasts for veterans and terrestrial radio shows. Link up with them. Do a little research. Find out which one you want to associate with. That is that's part of it. You know, and one of those big things about it is take the time to find it. Like, I kept posting, look up Gaming for Veterans. Look up Gaming for Veterans. They could use a big name ticket like you. You could definitely link up with them. They have the infrastructure in place. They have the procedure in place. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But, of course, my voices get drowned out by the hundreds of thousands of, oh my God, yes, that's a great idea. You should totally fucking do it. Yeah. People. If you have a good idea, run with it. I'm all for that. But at least Google your idea first. Make sure, if anyone else is running with it, and if they already have it established, maybe try linking up with them. Or, if you don't like their model, then do your own. But for fuck's sake, do a little research before you post something like that. That's all. Because there are major, I'm not a huge fan of John Burke personally. I don't, and it's a personal, my opinion. I'm not a huge fan of John Burke, but, there are plenty of organizations that could very well benefit from a partnership with John Burke because he's a very active figure. Same thing with, like, Drew from A Combat Veteran, or WTF Nation Radio, or fucking, what's his name? The guy who does all the fucking rants in his car with the Eminem, music playing in the background. Graham Allen. People, if you guys have ideas, great. But look at who's already established, and then, they could use your help too, I get it. Oh, man. Fucking A. I need more desk whiskey. I drank all my desk whiskey yesterday, and I'm not in a good mood. All right, let's fucking start this off right with a fucking twat waffle from Texas. I was going to start with ISIS, but fuck that shit. ISIS can take a backseat to this. So, woman claims United Airlines gave her seat to Democrat Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. Now, before we go any further, Sheila Jackson Lee is a representative out of Texas, Democrat, and she has appeared in the Washingtonian, I don't fucking know, magazine's Best and Worst of Congress list in 2014. And holy fucking shit, she she really has gotten some flack. From that list, from her own employees, she won the title of meanest and show horse, with her employees citing heavy workloads and harsh criticism. And a lot of her aides have detailed that her allegedly abrasive behavior, and they've told the Houston Chronicle she would hurl personal insults and demand menial errands to be run. Now that we have an idea of this kind of woman coming from her staff, who she is at work, let's hear how she is on a plane. Now, the backstory. Jean Marie Simon, who is, I feel is a victim here, used 140,000 miles, because it's airline miles, to buy first-class tickets to take her from Washington, D.C. to Guatemala and back home, round trip. Described the experience as completely humiliating. When it was time to board the last leg of her flight home from George Bush International Airport on December 18th, the gate attendant told Simon that her paper ticket was not in United's system and asked if she canceled her flight. Now, United Airlines, let's have some common fucking sense here. They purchased round-trip tickets for free. How many people are going to cancel those flights? Simon was told that her seat was taken, and United gave her a $500 voucher and received her in Economy Plus section, row 11. Later, Miss Simon learned that Jackson Lee, who had been a vocal proponent of impeaching President Trump, was in the seat she'd purchased and had alleged that the Congresswoman received preferential treatment, which United denies. We were concerned by this issue and took immediate steps to fully understand what happened. After thoroughly examining our electronic records, we found that upon receiving a notification that Flight 788 was delayed due to weather, the customer appears to have canceled her flight from Houston to Washington, D.C. Okay, that makes no fucking sense. No fucking sense. But I'll get to that in a second. As part of the normal pre-boarding process, gate agents began clearing standby and upgrade customers, including the first customer on the wait list for an upgrade. Simon denied that she canceled her ticket. She did not comment further when contacted by Fox News. Jackson Lee issued a statement on Saturday afternoon to the Chronicle saying, "I asked for nothing exceptional or out of the ordinary and received nothing exceptional or out of the ordinary." The Congresswoman's office did not respond to Fox News' request for comment as well. Simon shared a screenshot of the United websites that showed only one inactive reservation, which was a flight to Houston in August that she had canceled because of Hurricane Harvey. A United spokesperson told Fox News the screenshot did not show the December flight as canceled because Simon ultimately took the flight. Here's my issue. Here's where the fuckery begins. But, yeah, I'm really talking about United Airlines. God damn it, I keep getting super low shit. There we go. Is that better, Jamie? Okay, here's my fucking issue. Representative Lee has a history, and I've unfortunately been on a flight with this woman, of being a spoiled, entitled cunt. there was one time, and this is not on the flight I was on. I'll share that personal experience in a minute. It's reported by passengers as well that there was one time that the congresswoman lashed out on a flight because it did not serve the seafood special she wanted. And I quote from the flight attendants, "Don't you know who I am? I'm Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Where is my seafood meal? I know it was ordered." And from personal experience, she threw a fucking hissy fit because she had to fly with the rest of the, and I quote, peasant class, because I am a queen and deserve to sit in first class. No, bitch, you're a fucking representative of the people of Texas in your district. You're not a queen, you're a representative. Don't be a cunt. I really, really, really don't like this woman. So, of course, I really don't like United Airlines either. Because they have a history of just being absolute, magic 5-letter word, cunts. And they will always do everything in their power to cover their ass because they make a shit ton of money. And I feel for this lawyer because it makes no fucking sense. If she booked international flight from United States to Guatemala and back, and the flight just got delayed, and it was the last leg of her flight, how many times has your flight gotten delayed on the last leg of a flight, and you just sat there and gone, okay. It makes no fucking sense. Especially when it's a return flight home. Why would you sit there and cancel a free flight? Free. But then again, that's my way of thinking it. I fucking don't know what's going on with my fucking sound, by the way. If that's good, great. But let me know in the Facebook chat if you're having troubles hearing me. I'll just fucking scream louder. I really hate fucking United. And the best part is this woman, this supposed victim, Jean Marie Simon, is a lawyer in D.C. A lawyer. So of course she's gonna be fucking filing some litigation about this. And I look forward to reading this because I would love to see her data records versus United data records, who can only do United can only do remote, but hers can actually come from the phone company and the data company that can sit there and say exactly what was done and what buttons were pressed, etc., 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 with her supposed cancellation. And that will trump United's records. Fuck United Airlines. Fuck everybody. Fuck assholes that don't fucking research their ideas before they fucking spout them off to a fucking crew of people that are willing to suck your dick for just fucking blinking at them. Alright. But yeah. Fucking, oh god, and I really don't like this fucking congresswoman. She's just a cunt to everybody. Just, wow. Okay. Here we go. Let's get to fucking ISIS. Might as well fucking knock it out now. ISIS claims deadly Kabul suicide attack. Kabul, Afghanistan. ISIS has claimed responsibility for a suicide bomb attack on a Shia cultural center in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, that left 41 people dead and dozens injured. 2 children were among the dead, and 84 people were injured in the blast, according to a health ministry spokesman. The attack rocked the center in the basement of a building in the west of the city around 10:30 a.m., 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Thursday morning. It also hit the Afghan news agency, which has an office on the floor above, Afghan Interior Ministry spokesman Nasrat Yahimi said. 2 more blasts followed at the same building, but caused no injuries. The ISIS-affiliated Amaq news agency said the terror group carried out the attack. ISIS has a news agency? The fuck? A crowd of just under 100 people were meeting at the cultural center to mark the anniversary of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan when a bomber infiltrated the crowd and detonated the device. According to journalist, here we go, Isanullah Amiri, I got it right, who was at the scene. Ambulances and police vehicles ferried the dead and wounded to nearby hospitals, Amiri said, as security forces cordoned off the site and blocked the main roads approaching the scene. Authorities also warned onlookers to stay away from the site of the explosion, where there's also a Shia mosque. Not gonna lie, I'm looking at the pictures here of the first responders, of the Afghan security personnel, And they are kitted the fuck out. I mean, damn, they're rocking fucking, I gotta say it's an AK-74. They're running a Zentico and a B-13 set, which is the fucking rail system that goes on it. And the front rail system. They got their own fucking type of laser, fucking optic. They're fucking kitted the fuck out, invest in everything. They look fucking like Afghan operators. And they're fucking moving like one as well, as what it looks like. At least we're teaching. Some people we're teaching over there actually fucking want to learn. The Afghan capital and the wider country are beset with attacks on its military, police, and civilian populations. ISIS and the Taliban have both carried out several attacks in the country this year, and they have also been fighting each other over territory, particularly in the east of the country. The Taliban earlier denied responsibility for the blast. Well, way to go, Taliban. Earlier this week, at least 10 people were killed after a suicide attacker detonated a bomb in an attack claimed by ISIS. The attack targeted an office of the National Directorate of Security, Rahimi said, near the U.S. Embassy and other diplomatic missions. Okay, it appears that when it comes to, we're throwing money at, well, fuck yeah. Here's what I'm seeing with fucking ISIS, especially in the Middle East. If you look at, and a lot of the focus has been on Iraq and Syria and that area. They're starting to get their asses whooped. You know, the Iraqi and the U.S. forces there that are advising, and several other countries are starting to really whoop ISIS ass. So, of course, when you have a terrorist organization, where the fuck are they going to disappear off to? Anywhere. That's the problem with terrorist organizations that I just love about them, and I respect, is that they have the ability to drop everything and just relocate. And that right there is a feat that is strategically brilliant of guerrilla and terrorist organizations. And with ISIS ramping up shit in Afghanistan, that's worse for our boys deployed there, our brothers and sisters deployed there. But strategy-wise, the Taliban is pretty... oh, God. Okay, roger that. I can't turn my volume up anymore, Spencer. It's maxed out. Hold on. Let me do this. How's that? Is that better? Is that better, Spencer? Okay, let me know in the comments. And here's the thing when it comes to... I gotta take my headphones off because the echo is coming back to me. I'm hearing myself double. The amazing thing about it is, yes, they're moving from the Middle East over to Afghanistan, and they're moving into Pakistan, all that jazz. But now we're having ISIS versus Taliban. Thank you, Spencer, for letting me know. Thank you, Michael. Word. I will not fuck with that. I'll take a screenshot so I don't lose this setting. So now you have ISIS versus Taliban fighting for land, but now we have ISIS, which is a little bit more vicious in my opinion than the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, laying out attacks in Afghanistan. Which brings up another interesting thing. You know, the numbers as of now in 2017, this was an article posted yesterday. ISIS, by the numbers, is dwindling. Going by this article, the war against the terror network is far from over, even Iraq and Syria, where it's first declared its so-called caliphate, and from where its fighters and leaders are now spreading to other faraway regions of the globe. Brett McGurk, the special envoy to the coalition fighting the Islamic State group in Iraq and Syria, told reporters at the State Department just before Christmas that the U.S. had made significant progress against the extremist network in 2017, but there is still work to do. Nobody who works on these problems will tell you we're popping champagne corks or anything, McGurk said, who began his position during the Obama administration and has continued under President Trump. This is not over. There's a long way to go. Part of me wants to say, yeah, well, duh, because they're a terrorist organization, and of course there's a long way to go, and you have to make sure you take out all portions of it. But at the same time, I can't joke and I can't shine on that, because I understand how difficult it is to deal with a terrorist organization that is just fluid. I mean, there's no better word for ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. It's just that they're fluid. They're able to just go. and disappear, pick up everything and go. And now that they're showing up in Southeast Asia, they're showing up in Afghanistan, they're fighting for power in eastern Afghanistan against the Taliban, and even the Taliban saying, we did not do that shit. I'm worried that this will lead to more ferocious fighting. You know, an animal is always an injured animal is always most dangerous when you corner it. And I'm worried to see what the retaliations are going to be in 2018, especially after this past year where we've significantly just, okay, no, you had that city? Nope, that's back in Iraq hands, or that's back in under U.S. forces control. You know, fuck you. Doc over in the Mixer chat, we do not have a scheduled show on Wednesdays right now. It's a day of no scheduled activities. It's a Donza. Last night, late in the night, I decided to stream some Destiny and some Insurgency and Team Fortress 2 and get my butt completely wrecked in PvP. Now, continuing on with what happened in Afghanistan today, German Foreign Minister Sigmar Gabriel condemned the heinous attack, saying it was aimed to divide the nation. And Germany will not relent its support for Afghanistan, he wrote on Twitter. The European Union ambassador to Afghanistan, Pierre said he was appalled. Mayudon, I think, said he was appalled by the bombing, which he said was an attack on freedom of speech, while the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan said its human rights workers were on ground establishing facts. Human rights organization Amnesty International said it underscored the dangers faced by Afghan civilians and blasted European leaders for forcibly returning Afghan asylum seekers to the country. With the Afghan capital hit once again, no one can credibly claim that Kabul is safe. The European governments who insist on this dangerous fiction by forcibly returning Afghans are putting their lives in danger, Amnesty International South Asia Director Baraj Patnaik said. Patnaik added that it was one of the deadliest years on record in the country. Over the past couple of months, from all the way back to August 25th, 22 people were killed in an attack on a Shiite mosque. ISIS claimed responsibility. September 13th, a suicide bomber killed 3 people in a blast outside a cricket stadium in Kabul. October 17th, 41 soldiers were killed in an attack on their base in eastern Afghanistan, claimed by the Taliban. The 21st of October, a suicide bombing near a military academy took another 15, claimed by the Taliban. October 20th, dozens of Afghans were killed in 2 mosque attacks, claimed by ISIS. Both organizations are stuck in a corner. Both organizations are severely wounded. And these 6 attacks total are the results of... Now we as a global community have put them in this corner, and these are the results of what they're doing. They're lashing out. You know, if you've ever seen a fucking wounded coyote or a fucking boar, and they'll fucking charge you, they'll fucking, you know, nip at you, or even worse, a fucking big cat like a puma or a mountain lion, they'll fucking scratch and claw to live. And that's what we're dealing with ISIS right now. We need to fucking have a World War II mentality of deal with it right now. We are the biggest, baddest motherfuckers in the world, and we should be supporting our allies in those countries, you know, in Afghanistan, because we are trying to help that new government. But then again, that's my idealism. Jesus fucking Christ. We just can't win in the Middle East. Honestly, you know what? Let's go on that notion. Let's talk about the Middle East for a minute before I ever get to the fucking Far East again, because we know North Korea's coming back up on my topic. North Korea's on my shit list fucking again today. But anyway, let's talk about the Middle East. I'm going to preface with I've never fucking been there except for Israel. I've been to Israel. I've been to a few of the Mediterranean countries that are Muslim. But I have not been to Iraq. I've not been to Afghanistan. Met a lot of good people. But for the most part, you know, when I was over there, I did not carry anything that signaled me as an American. I carried more Canadian shit. Because more, you know, like, when's the last time you heard of a terrorist attack in Canada? A major, massive one. Everyone likes Canada for some reason. So, and that was because I was traveling with family and friends. You know, I'm unapologetically American, but it didn't suit the purpose, especially when my friends wanted to go, let's go to fucking Egypt a year after the fucking Civil War bullshit. Their fucking little coup d'etat. Yeah, that's fucking brilliant. Let me catch one of you motherfuckers wearing a Yankees hat. That whole fucking region is so fucking unstable, and part of it is the involvement of Israel, and now with the Jerusalem issue, that's adding to the instability. But part of it is because there's no fucking care about country politics. I have heard it, I have read it, I have seen it, but from fellow brothers and sisters, they don't care about their country politics. Very rarely I've heard that there's someone they encounter. It's like, oh my god, I love Iraq. It's tribal. Why are we not appealing to tribal? And even better, why are we not appealing to tribal and helping them with massive amount of force? I don't know, and I really don't care, but I'll look it up, D-Max. I'll find out. Let's check that real quick for Egypt mass execution. Yeah, 2016. 44 executions in 2016. And it was the one that happened 2 days ago was Islamic militants. But there's another thing. There is another example of the insanity that is happening in the Middle East. Is okay, great. Egypt executed 15 Islamic militants convicted of carrying out a deadly attack on an army outpost in the Sinai Peninsula. Great. But holy shit. You know, I was a dumbass for going to some of these countries and wanting to visit and explore and get more culturally educated. But damn, it's almost tribal. It ain't fucking just, oh, we are all fucking Iraqis. No, there's fucking Sunnis and Shiites and Kurds and blah 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 blah. And then you have, of course, the powerhouse that is Iran, which freely allows these organizations, these fluid terrorist organizations, to just disappear. We need to get a handle, and we need to try to educate and teach that pride in one country, which only comes from this person, which we're never going to be able to teach, but also that your country, your borders are your borders. And you want the killings to stop, you want the violence to stop, start securing your own goddamn borders. Start securing your airlines. Start securing all that shit. Because in the end, the majority of people do want fucking peace. Not every fucking practitioner of Islam is a fucking warmongering hater, and wants to blow up the United States. Harsh reality is, the majority of them just want to fucking live their lives and fucking shit on the streets and, drink, piss from a Gatorade bottle. But for fuck's sake, you guys got to step up. Now, people of those countries have to step up. And they have to want it. They can't just fall into a rut. They're being, complacent. I mean, complacency fucking kills, guys. We all know that. But there it's just, oh, well, whatever. Okay, it was Hamas. Not a big deal. Oh, it's just Hezbollah. No, whatever. It's all good. This is why I fucking hate the Middle East. Except for Israel. I'm so pro-Israel, I fucking bleed blue and white. Almost as much as I bleed red, white, and blue. I can't fucking speak today. It's all that fucking Christmas eggnog. It's still hitting me now. Okay. So. Political Magazine put out a very good article. And I skimmed through it, and I agree with most of it. Everything is awesome. Well, almost. By every measure, almost every measure, America is still on the upswing headed into 2018. Just one thing. So, article begins, I come bearing good news, the economy is growing. Okay, it's been growing for 8 straight years, but as President Donald Trump keeps pointing out, it's grown at a solid 3% annual rate for the past 2 quarters, which we also saw in President Barack Obama's time. We've had a 3% quarterly growth, 8 times. Yeah, 8 times. And verified 8 times with President Barack Obama. It's a good number. Unemployment, which has dropped from 7.8 to 4.8, to a 17-year low of 4.1% under President Trump. The Dow, which has nearly tripled to nearly 20,000, under President Obama has kept rising to the record heights of more than 24,000 under President Trump. Inflation and interest rates are still low. Consumer confidence is still high. The economy is doing fucking well. Now, this is confounding liberal pundits who predicted insta-doom. If the question is when markets will recover, Paul Krugman wrote the day after Trump's victory, a first-pass answer is never. He was wrong, just like the conservative pundits who kept predicting Zimbabwe-style hyperinflation, or Greece-style debt crises, and other economic horrors on Obama's watch. For the past 3 holiday seasons, the author, where is the author? Michael Grunwald. He's documented the failure of those horrors to arrive in my annual Everything is Awesome essays, which, Lego Movie-inspired headline hyperbole aside, made the cheery case that most things in America were getting better. That case apparently lacks some persuasive power because Trump won the presidency by making the exact opposite case, arguing that the economy was a disaster and America was going to hell. He was wrong and quickly began taking credit for the excellence of the economic trends he used to trash on the campaign trail. And this article brings up a good point. Majority of people during the 2016 campaign bought into rhetoric. I am all for people campaigning and saying rhetoric and etc., etc., etc. But when the rhetoric is very easily to prove that it's wrong, especially in something with the economy where the numbers are there, what the fuck, America? But let's continue on. This might be hypocritical, but it doesn't make the trends less excellent. As far as the economy is concerned, just about everything has continued to get better in 2017 at just about the same rate things have gotten better since the Great Recession ended in 2009. Job growth has continued at a slightly slower pace. GDP, gross domestic product growth, and Wall Street profits at a slightly faster pace. Wage growth at approximately the same pace. The trade deficit that Trump has vowed to erase has grown too, but that's also a sign of prosperity. It's growing because Americans have more money to spend on imports. The percentage of Americans who believe the economy is in good shape has also grown, but the partisan breakdown suggests that it's mostly because many Republicans abruptly revised their assessments after Trump took office on January 20th. President Trump is one of those Republicans. He used to denounce the monthly Bureau of Labor and Statistics job creation reports as false numbers, a complete fraud, and a totally phony, until the first report during his presidency showed continued job creation. That's when Press Secretary Sean Spicer revealed that President Trump had told him there may have been phony in the past, but it's very real now. It's been real in the past, Mr. President. And the Democrats can plausibly try to spin this economic health as the legacy of the Obama economy, which is true. They can try to spin that. But at the same time, they ought to ask themselves why they were so reluctant to brag about President Obama's economy when it was actually Obama's economy, and why their presidential candidates felt so compelled to echo gloomy Republican themes of American decline after 8 years of economic gains under a Democratic president. There are a few caveats to the awesomeness. While the economy has gotten better for every demographic group and income level since the financial cataclysm of 2008, it isn't awesome for everyone. The rich have vacuumed up a large share of the recovery's pre-tax gains, while middle-class income growth has failed to keep pace with the economy overall. Wages have grown faster than inflation, especially for previously unemployed Americans in the 17 million jobs created since the recession ended. But economists are somewhat bewildered why they aren't growing a lot faster. Globalization and automation are generally positive developments, boosting productivity, efficiency, and life-improving innovations, but they do create winners and losers, and opioid-ravaged former mill towns and mining towns have been losing. Second, a few positive trends have turned negative. The budget deficit, after plummeting by 2/3 from 2009 to 15, has crept up 2 years in a row and could explode again now that the Republican tax plan has become law, adding a projected $1.5 trillion in red ink over the next decade. Okay, first of all, I haven't talked about the tax plan at all. Y'all haven't heard KJ talk about the tax. I don't give to... the fucking tax plan that got passed benefits me extremely. It benefits me personally extremely well. I benefit the fuck out of it. However, the part that makes me fucking cringe is exactly what I just said. $1.5 trillion. It adds $1.5 trillion to the deficit. Now, I'm not an economist, But if you're adding money to a deficit, that means it's money that we don't have, and you're increasing that ceiling, the amount of debt we can have. And if I'm wrong, please, someone intervene, call the show. But why the hell? And I'm a strong proponent. I remember I was very young in the 90s, but I took a lot of interest in the early 2000s. I remember in the early 90s to the late 90s, the book was balanced. We had an equal amount of debt to an equal amount of income. Expense versus income was fucking pretty even. And I'm really not liking this budget deficit and the debt ceiling and all that jazz, because it's really starting to, it's looming over us. And if that ever fucking collapses, if we are unable to pay that shit, and if Congress keeps adding to the deficit and adding to the debt ceiling, there's going to come a point where we just can't make any more payments. Continuing on the article. Percentage of the Americans without health insurance, which plunged to historic lows under Obama, which is absolutely 100% true, has also begun to creep up as the Trump administration has discouraged Obamacare enrollment, and could rise further if President Trump succeeds in slashing Medicaid funding and Obamacare subsidies. Republicans have also suggested that they may try to cut entitlements like Medicare and Social Security, disability insurance, to offset the cost of their tax plan, which is expected to reduce the after-tax incomes of some non-wealthy Americans. And third, economic upswings don't usually last longer than 8 years, and some Trump policies, regardless of their merit, could depress America's economic output. For example, one component of GDP growth is population growth, and Trump's proposal to limit legal as well as illegal immigration would translate into fewer people producing fewer things. Similarly, President Trump's aggressive nationalistic trade agenda is designed to promote American manufacturing in the long run, but in the short run could easily reduce foreign investment, disrupt domestic supply chains, or even spark damaging trade wars. The Republican Party's corporate tax cuts, by contrast, could provide a GDP-friendly economic jolt, but that jolt could be offset by various increases in the same tax plan. And if the Federal Reserve reacts to the plan's oddly timed fiscal stimulus so late in an expansion by slamming on the monetary brakes. And the economy isn't everything. So, let's furthermore about what President Trump has done. The President of the United States has falsely accused our British allies of wiretapping him, calling for the imprisonment of his most prominent political opponent, and repeatedly retweeted racist and attacked black athletes. What? Oh, he's talking about the fucking, the kneeling. There we go. But what racist tweets? I have not seen one racist tweet. I have not seen him drop the bombs, the N-bomb, the M-bomb or anything. I have not seen him, any of that. I have not seen him show support for any racist organization or supremacy organization. So, yeah, okay, it's a little fucking biased. He's told brazen falsehoods about crime statistics. Yeah, that's true. His electoral victory, his legislative record, his health care plans, his tax plans, and so much more. Let's click on the hyperlink, so much more. Let's see what the fuck you're exactly talking about. Yeah. Oh, damn. We essentially repealed Obamacare because we got rid of the individual mandate, and that was a primary source of funding on Obamacare. That's not true. That was not a primary source of funding on Obamacare, and it didn't repeal it entirely. Missouri is not one of the 13 states this year that have seen the unemployment drop to the lowest levels in the history of their state. Black home ownership just hit the highest level it had ever been in the history of our country. That's not true. It's fallen. Hillary Clinton lied many times to the FBI. FBI previous director Comey says she didn't lie, but says the tax bill is going to cost me a fortune. This thing, believe me, this is not good for me. You actually stand to gain because you're a property tycoon. GOP plans to support he says the GOP plan he supports is the biggest tax cut in U.S. history. Might be the 8th or 7th. You know, President Trump has no fucking tact, and he's got a fucking motor mouth. I've said it before. Just fucking get off Twitter. Just stop talking on Twitter. Just stop it. Every time you open your mouth on fucking Twitter, you make yourself look like a jackass. Please, you could be so much more, but instead you have to be a fucking Twitter fiend. Stop it. He's lashed out at the mayor of London. Rightly so. The mayor of Puerto Rico, because she's a dick. And the fake news media. Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at it, I know this is a very leftist article, but the fake news media, they have had a history of publishing to their spin, to their demographic. And unfortunately, when you publish to your demographic, and Fox News is not safe from this. Fucking Breitbart is not safe from this. They all spin to their demographic. If you look at the BBC, the Brits report the fucking news. If you look at, and I hate to bring it up, but if you look at Al Jazeera, which I cross-reference the majority of my Middle Eastern news with Al Jazeera reports numbers and facts because they're fucking there. Now, of course, Al Jazeera is a very heavily Islamic based news station, but when it comes to numbers and facts, they report numbers and facts. If you look at Sky News, if you look at all the other news sources outside the US, they report the facts. Some exceptions, like Russia Today, etc., etc., etc. But it's very easy to tell what's propaganda, what's not. And when you look at American news sources, CNN, Breitbart, fucking New York Times, the Tampa Bay Times, the fucking Washington Post, all of these different news sources, MSNBC, Fox News, they report the spin for their audience. They know who their primary audience is. The New York Times primary audience is New Yorkers. Hate to say it, but it's true. It's New Yorkers. They sell more papers in New York because they are the New York Times. So, of fucking course, they're going to have a very liberal Democrat view. This fake news thing is what's aggravating me because everyone is at fucking fault. This is by Politico. This is not by Vox. This is by Politico. I really like Politico because they do post on both sides of the aisle. Yeah, he's commented on the FBI, the intelligence community, independent budget analysts, and others who have criticized him or challenged his authority. And that actually is 100% I agree with. We have a president that does not, and he's learning, he's not a politician by trade, but people criticize him, and he lashes out. And I'm sorry, there's a point where when you're in a position, when you're in such a public office, you're going to get fucking criticized. You're going to get scrutinized. And here you go, lashing out at journalists, at intelligence analysts, at people in your own cabinet. Because I pray to fucking God the people in his cabinet are not just sitting there sucking his fucking dick. I know fucking St. Mattis isn't. But shit. He has a history of the minute someone criticizes him or challenges him, bam, fuck off. That's not a good fucking trait, Mr. President. Their Republican special counsel has indicated 4 of his aides, including his campaign chairman and national security advisor, have been involved with something regarding Russia. He privately urged senators to drop their own Russia investigations. But none of this is fucking normal. And if you care about democratic norms, democratic, not the Democrat Party, but democratic norms, not to mention Americans standing in the world, none of this is good. I love our new president. I think I do not 100% support him. I did not vote for him, as you've heard me say. But I think it's good for the country that he's there. But holy shit, you need to learn tact. You have none when it comes to politics. When it comes to visiting down at fucking, the VA hospital or the Naval Hospital or whatever, hell yeah. You the man. But when it comes to fucking playing around on the hill in the swamp, I'm sorry, President Trump, you are not well suited for it. You don't understand the game. Even I barely understand the game. The game is, politics is about favors and niceties and stabbing each other in the back from time to time. It's about whipping up votes from your own party and others. God damn. Too much fucking Game of Thrones and fucking House of Cards. I need to get drunk. Alright. Now, the article continues to say, in fairness, none of this is necessarily damaging to the day-to-day quality of life of most Americans. The incessant barrage of "oh no, he didn't" pouring out of the White House hasn't crashed the economy, nor has it produced a nuclear war, or a debt default, or a constitutional crisis. Nor does it seem to be reversing the President Obama's solid non-economic trends, like plunging oil imports, abortions, and teen pregnancies. Dirty coal plants keep shutting down despite President Trump's efforts to prop them up. And no matter what you think of the changes President Trump wants to make to the healthcare, federal spending, and infrastructure, he hasn't been able to make them. He hasn't built his wall either, but his fiery anti-immigration rhetoric has helped slow the flow of undocumented migrants over the Mexican border to the lowest level since 1971. He's signed tax cuts that will mostly help corporations and the wealthiest Americans, but whether or not that's a good idea, it won't take effect until next year. Still, it's really weird to have a president hanging up on foreign leaders, calling for reporters to be fired, defending neo-Nazis, and misleading the public almost every time he speaks. Okay. Defending neo-Nazis. Everyone knows KJ's a Jew. And they're talking about the Charlottesville thing. He wasn't defending a neo-Nazi. I'm Jewish. I'm going to be the first to admit it. He was not defending a neo-Nazi. Why? Because neither party was wholly to blame. They both shared blame. Now, the white supremacist groups, as we know, they fucking came in there and they fucking filed permits and they wanted to fucking protest. And then the counter-protesters, Antifa, etc., came in there and started swinging. Neither party is to be vaulted or made to appear better, because violence is not the answer when it comes to protest. And god damn it, white supremacy is not the fucking answer. But for fuck's sake, call a spade a spade. Now, continuing the article, there's no point pretending these antics aren't affecting America's image. A Germany-based market research firm just dropped America's Nation brand from number 1 in the world to number 6. It is the only country in the top 10 to fall. A Pew survey of 37 countries found that 35 had a dimmer view of the United States since Trump's election, all but Vietnam and, of course, Russia. Tourism to the U.S. is down 4% this year, despite the strong economy, a dip many industry insiders blame on a Trump slump. Which, yeah, I'm sorry, but if you have a president that is constantly spreading constant rhetoric about immigration and people from other countries, if you're from Mexico and you want to go to Disney World, yeah, I'm not really feeling comfortable flying across the Gulf to Mexico because someone may mistake me for an illegal immigrant. I mean, yeah, and that's just using Mexico as an example. Of course tourism's going to dip. And of course Russia and Vietnam are going to think we're fucking great. Russia, because Putin's fucking thrilled. Oh, President Trump's in office. Ha 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 ha. I may or may not have had something to do with it. Maybe. I don't know yet. And I'm waiting to hold my judgment on that until after all the investigation's done. In Vietnam, then economic. This product was made in Vietnam. This product was made in Taiwan. This product was made in China. Now, it's possible that President Trump will fire special counsel Robert Mueller and trigger a constitutional crisis. It's possible that President Trump's Justice Department really will act on his lie that millions of illegal immigrants voted in 2016, triggering an electoral crisis before the 2020 election. It's possible that President Trump will blunder us into a nuclear war with North Korea or some other foreign conflagration. These are all things that are possible. Not happening, but possible. He has made the unthinkable thinkable, which, if you value peace and stability, isn't awesome. And I, for one, do. I'm all for starting shit with North Korea, but I'm not for, and as you've heard me say it in the past, diplomatic before violence. We have reached a point where diplomatic is not working with North Korea. We need to find a solution quickly. And lo and fucking behold, every day that we wait, it gets closer to that nuclear option being available fully for North Korea. Honestly, overall, the United States is doing well as a whole. We, the people, are sitting here and living our lives as it has been. It's been a whole fucking year since the election. No one's fucking died because of the election. No one has fucking gone in. Well, people have gone insane, but no one has fucking. Nothing really has happened other than Congress not being able to get off their fucking ass and the president not learning any goddamn tact. Hashtag take his fucking phone away. But the reality is this. When it comes to the world stage, America is being viewed less and less viable. And you may say, don't care what others think of us. You don't need our money either. But let's take that statement, Spencer. We are gonna single out that statement. Not you, but the statement. Don't care what others think of us. You don't need our money either. All right. We're going to take a country that we're allied with. We're going to take Germany. We're going to take Germany for everything it offers and provides. Cars, electronics, technology, science. Now, how many people... Let's do a quick Google search real quick as we hear my keyboard typing like a madman. How many BMWs were sold in 2017? Let's just go off of June 2017 because that's the first one that popped up. It's a press from actual BMW. By June of 2017, 28,962. So 100 more BMWs were sold than 2016. I'm sorry, that's just for the month of June. And in 2017, 149,000 vehicles were sold up to that point in 2017. So using that number, pulling up my fancy calculator, we're going to say it stayed on that trend, and we're using this as an example, purely hypothetical. But 149,000 times 2, because it's a 6-month period. So it's 298,000 BMWs. And we're just going to use BMW cars, just the cars as an example. But 298,000 BMWs were sold in the United States. Now, approximately a BMW is what? 30,000 a piece? Average 35,000? So we'll do that 298,000 times the average, which is, I think my head's saying in about 30K. Because they're higher, upper middle end. That is 8,940,000,000 cars. $1 million. I went with 30,000 because remember you can buy pre-owned. That is $8,940,000,000 from those 298,000 cars that were sold this year, approximately. $8 billion, close to $9 billion, just from BMW that the American people spent. And that money went to the company BMW, which is German. So, of course, we have all the parts, all the upkeep, the import tariffs and taxes, all of that extra that gets built on and added to our national income, to our national growth. All of that. And now, in reverse, we export Chevys or Ram or Dodge or Fords back to Germany. I know it doesn't sell as well, but we do. If people don't think highly of the United States, we start losing economically. If people don't think highly of the United States, they don't come here. They don't move here. They don't bring new industry and new ideas. We start falling behind in very critical categories like education. We start falling behind in very critical categories like scientific advancement. Remember, one of the biggest things in the world that we top everybody else on is Department of Defense spending. Is defense spending. We top that number We are the number one slot for the amount of money we spend on defense. And I love that. I do. However, you can't add, I think it's the top 20 slots. I'm citing information from 2016. I'm not going to try to look it up live and waste more time. But from 2016, you can't add, I think, the top 20 slots and still reach our number. The top number 2 to 20 added up do not reach our spending. Okay. We've got to focus on defense. Where's our focus on education? Where's our focus on scientific advancement? Where's our focus on economic growth through agriculture or infrastructure? We already know immigration is not going to be touched by this president. But that's the thing. Public opinion matters. On an individual level, it doesn't. I honestly don't care if you like me or if you hate me. I don't. But the harsh reality is, I care about the opinion you have about my station, about WTF Nation Radio, and about my show, Jose's Taco Truck. I will always try to present a professional and polite and courteous show. Granted, I say fucking cunt a lot, but you know what? I try to keep it professional and courteous. Because I care about how I present myself to you on the station. Take that and apply it to a world scale. The United States, in order to do business on a global scale, it's the same thing, it's a North Korea argument. We are a big kid. We have to act like a big kid to keep sitting at the big kid's table. If you want to be treated like an adult, act like an adult. Right now, the United States, when it comes to key things such as immigration, such as healthcare, such as border control, which, yes, immigration and border control are very close, but I'm separating it for a very good reason, the fucking wall. We are a laughingstock. And it's not just the president's fault, it's also the media. Especially like here. Still, it's really weird for a president hanging up on foreign leaders, calling for reporters to be fired, and defending neo-Nazis. Yeah, we are a laughingstock. The world is laughing at us, not with us. And in the terms of the economy and the American people, this will not end well. God damn it, Nogs, I will play PUBG with you later. But I love you, Nogs. I always care what you think about me. You and your bottle of Jameson. Makes me all happy. Ladies and gentlemen, Nogs from my PUBG group. We say mean things to each other and then shoot bad guys. Moving on. What matters incredibly in the United States is image. We are the image of democracy and freedom. The modern day image of democracy and freedom. And when you have that taken away, when people don't see us as the image of modern day democracy and freedom, who wants to move here? Who wants to work here? There are parents, there are people that probably are brilliant that wanted to come to the United States. Someone that may have had a cure for, that may have been able to figure out a cure for cancer, or may have had a child that would have figured out a cure for cancer, that now does not want to apply for the work visa or for citizenship here because they don't view it as a bastion of democracy and freedom. And that is mainly because of our president's lack of fucking tact. I hate to say it, but it is true. Try again, Spencer. Let me get that number up real quick. Let me get that number.
Call the show now at 415-889-8367.
And D-Max, you're saying can't focus on what ifs, and I understand that. You can't focus on what ifs. But the harsh reality is, when you're dealing with politics, all of it is what ifs, until it's actually voted in. And when you're dealing with global politics, you're dealing with country to country. So, of course, you have to deal with what ifs. What if the United States doesn't get involved in World War II? That's what England was asking. What if they don't do more than just provide us economic aid and supplies? Oh, thank God Pearl Harbor got hit. That's exactly what the British were saying December 8th. Oh, thank God. I hate to say it, but it's true. On a world scale, what ifs is a very necessary evil. And you need to have the tact to not only look at it, but to also process possible outcomes. And be respectful when those outcomes you process don't come to fruition. And our president has an unhealthy obsession with Russia, with proving that Hillary Clinton is a criminal, which I think she is personally, but there's nothing that no court has deemed her a criminal yet, so I will not call her that. But that's history. You're right, it's history. But in the future, here's a better example. What the hell is going on with the Skype? Huh. I'll try to figure that out, Spencer. Oh shit, it's noon. Alright, you know what we're going to do? Spencer, I want to hear your opinion. We're going to take a short break. We're going to play some music, and then I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with the Skype. And then from there, we will, I'll let you know what's going on, Spencer. Alright? We're going to take a short break. Maybe 2 songs. Yeah, we'll take a short break real quick, and we'll come back, and I'll get that Skype working 100%, Spencer. So we'll be right back. Let's give it about 7 minutes. Shots!
WTF Nation Radio. Broadcasting live from the basement of the Pentagon. This is WTF Nation Radio.
Yeah.
Everything stated on WTF Nation Radio is to be considered the opinion of the person that stated it, and not an official representation of WTF Nation Radio or U.S. Army WTF Moments.
Price does not include tax, title, or license. Some assembly required. Each item sold separately. Batteries not included. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear. If conditions persist, contact a physician. Individual results may vary. Keep out of the reach of children. Avoid prolonged exposure to direct sunlight. Keep in a cool, dark place. And
please enjoy the show. Shots.
Shots. All right, we're back. All right. Spencer, try calling the station one more time. Really would appreciate to hear your opinion about the global stage of politics. And then I'm gonna finish up my thoughts on it, and then we're gonna move on. But yeah, public opinion on a global sense matters immensely, because people can choose not to buy American. People can choose not to visit America, and that will greatly impact us. Remember, there are 3 pillars that every country stands on: opinion, economics, and defense. If you overpower one's country's defense, you've overpowered the military. You control the defense of the country. If you overpower someone economically, which is by either not buying their products or completely buying them out of their products, you make them entirely dependent on you. Or opinion. This is the fickle one, because every person's different, and every person is going to say the same thing. Well, I don't care what other people think of me. But the harsh reality is countries don't have that luxury. For example, I don't think very highly of a certain country in the Middle East that rhymes with Palestine. I don't think very highly of there. I'm not going to go visit Palestine. That hurts their tourism. I'm one person, but it can hurt their tourism. Let's even focus on another country like Greece, who's already drowning. I'm never going to go visit Greece. Why? I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with whatever the exorbitant prices are. I don't want to deal with trying to learn a new language. I don't want to deal with it. Sorry to hear that, Spencer. We're going to get that solved before Sergeant's time tonight. We're sorry about that, Spencer. But yeah, my opinion of those countries are low. I don't want to go there. I don't want to be there. I don't want to spend my money. And furthermore, if a product comes from Palestine, I'm not going to buy it. Why? Because I support Israel. If a product is made in fucking Iraq, I'm probably not going to buy it. Product made in fucking China, and if we were at, I don't think so, Spencer. I checked for that. You know, if that's the thing. Opinion is what matters, and we, the people of our respective countries, dictate that opinion. So that's the harsh reality. And even further, let's go to the next fucking article that's in my list of things. Trump's legal team readies attack on Flynn's credibility. This is a huge issue, because as the President of the United States... Well, let's get to the article. Oh, fuck me, it's Washington Post. Fuck you, Washington Post. Oh, we're glad you're enjoying the Washington Post. Get access to the story and every story on the web in our app with our basic digital subscription. Fuck you. Okay. Basically, as we all know, the previous National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, got caught with some collusion issues, and he's on the chopping block. And I'm rapidly trying to find a similar article. Newsweek. I can use Newsweek. I haven't used Newsweek. Life is good there. Use that tab. Okay. What is reported by what I can read by the Washington Post is that President Trump's legal team plans to cast former National Security Advisor Michael T. Flynn as a liar, seeking to protect himself if he accuses the president or his senior aides of any wrongdoing, according to 3 people familiar with the strategy. The approach would mark a sharp break from President Trump's previously sympathetic posture towards Flynn, whom he called a wonderful man when Flynn was ousted from the White House in February. Earlier this month, the president did not rule out a possible pardon for Flynn, who is cooperating with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. You're the president of the United States of America. Truth, justice, and the American way. He lied. But the bigger problem, and the question I have as my legal beagle brain starts fucking processing this, did you know about it? Did you know he lied? See, this is why I have no problem with this fucking investigation. At all. Because I want to know if the president knew that Michael Flynn lied. I want to know if he knew that Michael Flynn had some interactions that were less than legal with Russians. I want to fucking know. Now, the article from Newsweek is stating that Trump should pardon Michael Flynn, who took the biggest fall, the family says. In a since-deleted tweet, Joseph Flynn said President Trump must get the former Army general off the hook for his December 1st guilty plea stemming from his contacts with the former Russian ambassador. The plea deal is a part of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into Russian meddling with 2016 presidential election and possible coordination with the Trump campaign. About time you pardon General Flynn, who has taken the biggest fall for all you have given the illegitimacy of this confessed crime in the wake of all this corruption, Joseph Flynn tweeted, though the post was deleted after about 15 minutes. Flynn's tweet came after President Trump posted his own mini-screed on Twitter complaining about Mueller's probe, among other things. And the tweet reads, Dossier is bogus. Clinton campaign DNC-funded dossier. FBI cannot, after all this time, verify claims in dossier of Russia-Trump collusion. FBI tainted. And they used this crooked Hillary pile of garbage as the basis for going after the Trump campaign. Joseph Flynn told Newsweek that he found Trump's tweet interesting, and so I responded. He added about his own quit, I said it, and maybe he's listening. Hours later, he wrote in a tweet to Newsweek about his earlier post. I stand by my tweet. This is all my personal opinion, and I stand by it. Moments later, he tweeted again to Donald Trump. Mr. President, I personally believe that a pardon is due to General Flynn, given the apparent and obvious illegitimacy in the manner in which the so-called crimes he pled guilty were extracted from him, he wrote. I ask for quick action on this. Thank you and keep up the good work. No! You pled guilty. You don't get to plead guilty and then go to the president and say, oh my God, please pardon me. Now, there's an update to this article, very at the top, that the author of the article, Max Kuttner, says President Donald Trump should pardon his former national security advisor and campaign aide. Wait, where the fuck is the update? That is not the update. The update was additional tweets from Joseph Flynn, who is the brother to Michael Flynn. No, he pled guilty. When you plead guilty, you should not be running off to the president. And even worse off, your brother should not be running off to the goddamn president. Please pardon him. He pled fucking guilty. Guilty! Not nolo contendere, no contest. Not guilty and was found guilty. He pled guilty. He knew he did something wrong. And he pled guilty. It does not matter what he pled guilty about. It does not matter how information was gotten after he pled guilty. What matters is he pled guilty. So, Mr. President, you're in a fucking position now. Do you pardon a man who is convicted a crime and pled guilty to it, that he himself knew that he convicted said crime and he committed a wrongful act against our country? Or do you let our Department of Justice work as intended and dole out a punishment fitting of the crime? I pray that you follow the Department of Justice here. It does no good in any capacity to issue out pardons. And that is my opinion. Now, I will caveat that with this. Let's say, and I will caveat, I am not a fan of presidential pardons. Not at all. I do not like them. However, there are sometimes it is very necessary. You know, there is necessary. If you have someone that's doing a vigilante act, we'll even go as far and bring in some fiction to it. Let's say the fucking Punisher existed in real life, and he was shooting, and he killed off the head of an entire crime syndicate, or he was able to manage to kill the entire Medellin cartel, every single member of the Medellin cartel, all the way down from the big to the Jefe, all the way down to his youngest fucking child, so that there's no chance of familiar fucking revenge. And I know it's a very extreme case here, but let's say the fucking Punisher killed the entire Medellin cartel, all family members, all relatives, all workers, Jefe and all. He got convicted. And somehow the Medellin cartel was all in the United States for this, so it actually holds up in a U.S. court. But he gets convicted of it. He pleads guilty. Yeah, then I would issue a presidential pardon, because what he did is a better service. He stopped a flow of a major cartel that is known to distribute narcotics to American citizens. He ended an entire cartel. Yeah, that would be the equivalent for a good pardon. But when someone pleads guilty to something that is very clearly an issue regarding patriotism and where your loyalties lie in the country, no. I'm sorry, General Flynn. You pled guilty. You pled fucking guilty. You deserve it. And your brother, I appreciate it. I would do the same thing for my brother. I would do the same thing for any of my brothers and sisters in arms. I would do as much as I can to help them. Don't get me wrong. I would probably be doing the same thing as Joseph Flynn. But the harsh reality is, I know that he does not, if someone pleads guilty, they don't fucking deserve, especially when enough evidence has been compiled, they don't deserve the pardon. It's already proven that he did it. You don't deserve a pardon. Assholes. Alright. God damn it. Fucking New York Times. Something happened in St. Petersburg, and I'm trying to get that article because New York Times! God damn it. Alright, let's go to fucking North Korea. It's that fucking time. I need a fucking bump for when I start talking about North Korea. God damn, it's like, North Korea, it's his favorite choice. I don't fucking know. I need something for whenever I start talking about North Korea. Let's see. Do we want to talk about China, or do we want to talk about the obvious? Let's have a fucking laugh. Who wants to hear KJ get triggered at stupidity? Alright, here we go. North Korea missiles may be based on Soviet designs, documents suggest. You can't see it, ladies and gentlemen, but my eye is twitching. Here we go. North Korea's latest missiles are strikingly similar to designs that were once up for sale after the collapse of the Soviet Union, according to documents reviewed by the Washington Post. A North Korean missile launched in June 2016 appears to use the same engine and many design features as a former Soviet Union missile that was put up for sale in 1992, the Post reports. After the sale fell through, scientists from the Russian missile facility that produced the weapon were arrested attempting to fly to North Korea in 1993. U.S., Russian, and South Korean officials reportedly believe that some scientists reached North Korea. Weapons experts have previously speculated that North Korea's recent advances in military technology may have drawn on Soviet designs. Are you fucking kidding me? No! Really? Oh my god! Who'd have thunk that when a major superpower of the 70s, 80s, and 90s collapsed, and there was an abundance of fucking weapons and blueprints that were just being sold left and fucking right to anyone who had a fucking $20 bill. Really? The Russian missile? North Koreans have a Russian military design, a missile based off of the Russian military missiles? Oh my god! Next thing you know, they'll discover that the AK that the North Koreans use is based off the AK-47. I'm sorry. People are fucking stupid. And I only bring up this article because it's a good segue into North Korea, and I can say some funny shit while being fucking completely triggered. But the harsh reality is, people are fucking stupid. I mean, for Christ's sake. I am the first person to admit I have a Russian fetish when it comes to weapons. I love the AK. I love the Dishka. I love RPKs. I love AKS-74Us. I love Russian weaponry. They make my nipples hard, okay? They are fucking fun to shoot and fun to play with. But for fuck's sake. The reason why I love them so much is because they're fucking reliable. And they were built on the cheap. The Jew in me's going crazy because they were built on the cheap, and the fucking soldier in me's going crazy because I can bury it for fucking 10 years and then pull it out when the Americans invade my home country. That was an Afghanistan joke. But, for fuck's sake, of course, it's the same engine and made design features of a Soviet Union missile. Shit! Everything from fucking first aid kits to fucking nuclear missile designs were up for sale when the Soviet Union collapsed. There's a whole movie called about a guy who went to weapon sites and purchased millions upon billions of dollars of weaponry to sell it illegally. Because capitalism was a new thing at the time there. They really didn't have true capitalism. So everybody was cashing in. I mean, granted, capitalism's fucking tits, and, there's a very extreme case of capitalism working. But for fuck's sake. Of course it's a Soviet missile design. They're a fucking communist it would surprise me if North Korea didn't get these designs prior to the collapse. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Because they were both communist countries, or at least in some form allies. Uses the same engine and many design features. You fucking think? Shit. There were two countries in the world was worried about with nukes. The US and fucking Russia. And guess what? The US... hey, we got this great fucking missile. It's a good fucking missile. It can launch a nuke. Oh, that's great. What do you got there? Hold on. England, why are you asking that? No reason. And lo and behold, England copies us. Imitation is the best form of flattery. Most sincere form of flattery. So of course, China and North Korea are going to have copies. For fuck's sake. This is a waste of fucking internet. You should get put behind a paywall by fucking the internet neutrality, you fucking twats. Ugh. Although I'm not going to lie, since I'm on a North Korea binge right now, I am going to say their flag, for some reason, and I'm not saying I like the country, I'm saying their flag, I have to say, it is appealing to the eye. It's red, white, and blue. Kind of like they know who's about to whoop their ass. It's just, it's a simple flag. It isn't like the weird fucking, flag of Delaware that's just fucking just, bam, color. It's easy. You know who you're fighting against right away. I can appreciate that. It's simple. Alright, fuck it. Let's move on. So, of course, UN sanctions. Spoke about it on Tuesday. From U.S. News. President Trump is disappointed China is allowing oil into North Korea. Oh, wait, who fucking said that? Here we go again. Reported by Reuters. U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday said he was very disappointed that China is allowing oil to go into North Korea and that such moves would prevent a friendly solution to the crisis over Pyongyang's nuclear program. Caught red-handed, very disappointed that China is allowing oil to go into North Korea. There will never be a friendly solution to the North Korea problem if this continues to happen, Trump wrote in a post on Twitter. Okay, all right, we're stopping right there. God fucking damn it, Mr. President, put down the fucking phone. There will never be a friendly solution. You fucking twat waffle. And I just called the president a twat waffle. Sue me. Of course, countries are not going to fucking follow the sanctions because there's no way to enforce the fucking sanctions. This is where the UN Peacekeeping Corps could actually have done some fucking good by actually being able to enforce the sanctions. How? You fucking station them and make it to where if you try to bring oil to North Korea, they're there to check how much. But of course, twat waffles that's in our fucking administration, and don't get me wrong, I like most of them, I hate most of them as well. Never be a friendly solution. Stop being such a goddamn pessimist and put down the fucking Twitter. If you spent less time fucking tweeting and more time fucking focusing on domestic international policy, North Korea would have been solved fucking 6 months ago. You fucking twat. Continuing on the article, China earlier on Thursday said there have been no UN sanction-breaking oil sales by Chinese ships to North Korea after a South Korean newspaper said Chinese and North Korean vessels have been illicitly linking up at sea to get oil to North Korea. Sure. The Trump administration had led a drive to step up global sanctions on North Korea in response to Pyongyang's efforts to develop nuclear-tipped missiles capable of hitting the United States. Well, there we go. Washington says the full cooperation of China, North Korea's neighbor and main trading partner, is vital to the success of this effort, while warning that all options are on the table, including military ones, in dealing with North Korea. The UN Security Council last week unanimously imposed new sanctions on North Korea for recent intercontinental ballistic missile tests, seeking to further limit its access to refined petroleum products and crude oil. The UN resolution seeking to ban nearly 90% of refined petroleum exports to North Korea by capping them at 500,000 barrels a year. The U.S. drafted resolution also caps crude oil supplies to North Korea at 4 million barrels a year and commits the Council to further reductions if North Korea were to conduct another nuclear test or launch another ICBM. Documents seen by Reuters this month showed Washington called on the Security Council to blacklist 10 ships for circumventing sanctions by conducting ship-to-ship transfers of refined petroleum products to North Korean vessels or transporting North Korean coal. China and Russia subsequently asked for more time to consider the proposal. In September, the Security Council put a cap of 2 million barrels a year on refined petroleum products petroleum product. Your fucking grammar is pissing me off, Reuters. Refined petroleum product exports to North Korea. China has repeatedly said it is fully enforcing all resolutions against North Korea, despite suspicion in Washington, Seoul, and Tokyo that loopholes still exist. The harsh reality is that China apparently got caught with their hand in the fucking cookie jar. And now it's, oh, well. Asked at a regular briefing whether Chinese ships were illegally providing oil to North Korean ships, Chinese Defense Ministry spokesman Ren Zhuqiang reiterated that China, including the military, strictly enforced UN resolutions. The situation you have mentioned above absolutely does not exist. South Korea's Chosun Ilbo newspaper this week quoted South Korean government sources as saying that spy satellites had detected 30 instances of ship-to-ship transfers to North Korean vessels since October. Bam! Hand, cookie jar. China, you're fucked. And the fucking UN is toothless. There's nothing they can do. We're going to impose sanctions. Great, how the fuck are you going to enforce those sanctions? How the fuck are you going to enforce those sanctions? Let me get to that at the end of the article. U.S. State Department officials suggest on Wednesday that such transfers could still be going on. Ship-to-ship transfers remain a concern as part of North Korea's sanctions evasions activities, the official said, while declining to provide details. A State Department spokesperson, Michael Cavey, reiterated on Wednesday that the United States had called on all countries to cut economic ties with North Korea. We urge China to end all economic ties with the DPRK, including, but not limited to, tourism, and the provision of any oil or petroleum products, and expel all DPRK workers, using the acronym for North Korea's official name, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Okay, I said it Tuesday, and I'm going to reiterate it again briefly. The UN is fucking toothless. There is not a goddamn fucking thing the United Nations can fucking do with these goddamn fucking sanctions. One of the first things that should have been implemented, that never was, that now has to be implemented, is a way to enforce sanctions other than fucking more sanctions. That is what the UN peacekeepers should be for, enforcing the decisions and rulings of the United Nations. Because if you want to play at the majorly adult table, which is the United Nations, which I think is also becoming an even more ridiculous organization than the League of Nations. But if you want to play at the UN, you have to abide by the UN. So if you're going to wage war, make sure you wage war correctly and like an adult. You don't fucking go out shooting mustard gas at other people and killing civilians. Syria. And if you do, we're going to send in peacekeepers to ruin your fucking life. And this is what gets me heated, is you have the UN Peacekeeping Corps. You have the peacekeepers, which don't do fucking shit. Oh, well, you know, they've done things in Afghanistan, they've done things in Iraq. They don't do fucking shit. Because one of the biggest issues we have in the global population is North Korea, the DPRK. And Kim Jong mentally ill Un is fucking retarded. And China, oh, well, we didn't do anything like that. We didn't do any ship-to-ship transfers. No, we're not doing that. Finsies, we're not doing that. As they cross their fucking fingers, smirking at each other over in the fucking Forbidden City in Beijing. Of course they're doing shit like that. So what do? You put a fucking fleet with UN markings on it that says, sorry, motherfucker, we're going to check every single fucking thing that comes in the air. And if you shoot on the UN fleet, the rest of the world's going to come crashing down on you. The UN is a fucking toothless tiger. There's no teeth, there's no claws, there's nothing. It just is pretty to fucking look at. And yeah, China is making bank off these sanctions. You're absolutely right, Chris. But the harsh reality is, they're going to make bank off it, and nothing's going to fucking come of it except for more fucking words and sanctions. And when you fucking break those words and sanctions, and you break those rules, there needs to be action. There needs to be punishment. More than just, oh, well, you can't have crude oil. Oh, well, you're limited to 500,000 barrels of refined petroleum products. No. That's where, in my little perfect fucking world, the UN peacekeepers come in. They form a naval blockade, and every fucking ship going past it gets fucking boarded and inspected. Oh, but then you're infringing on the sovereignty of sovereign nations. Fuck off. The minute you have a sanction on you, your sovereignty is in question. The minute you break those sanctions... Oh, and by the way, China's not in the clear of this either. We're going to... Before I continue with the breaking of those sanctions, let's go to fucking China. China, you want to play fucking stupid games? Here's your fucking stupid prize. In my perfect world, if I was running the UN, you're getting fucking blockaded too. All your flights are getting monitored. All your fucking cargoes are getting monitored. And, by the way, you're getting sanctions. That's how I would fucking do it. Both fucking parties want to play stupid games? Here's your stupid prize. Oh, but we need rice to eat to feed our people, Mr. UN Chairman KJ. Yeah, well, you shouldn't have fucking broke the goddamn sanctions not even a week after they've been fucking put out by the UN. Sorry. Find another way to feed your fucking people. Maybe you should have learned how to use a fucking condom. Oh, but that's not human rights. I don't give a fuck. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You can't go fucking posing, doing a fucking, you can't go planking on a train track with a train coming, because guess what's going to happen? Oh, the train's going to run your ass over. Well, here you go. Fucking UN imposed sanctions. What should happen is if someone breaks the sanctions, the UN comes down hard on them. And if they come back at the UN, the rest of the world comes down harder. I mean, for fuck's sake. I've said it before, the United States is the global police. I've said it before that we are the standard bearer for democracy and freedom. I've even said today that people don't view that as opinion of us, but that is true. We are the standard. But for fuck's sake, the UN needs to step up or shut up. Dictating and infringing on sovereign rights, like where to put a fucking embassy. Not having the ability to enforce their sanctions. For fuck's sake. You don't enforce sanctions with more sanctions. I mean, I get it. The UN is committed to peace. I understand it. They've got olive branches in their fucking symbol. But we wage wars so our children don't have to. And it would probably be better if fucking the UN was able to fucking act. If members of the Security Council, like the US, Russia, China, those countries had to donate, and I may be misinformed about this, maybe they already do, but I'm not 100% about it, but had to keep an active standing force and give active troops to the standing force of the UN, so that when these sanctions break, bam, the peacekeepers can go in, enforce the sanction. Could you imagine members of the Security Council? They would never break a fucking sanction. You would never have an issue with North Korea and China again, because China's on the Security Council. And then they'd have to worry about their own fucking people coming after them. Oh, fucking god damn it. This is what really aggravates KJ. This is what pisses him off. We fucking created this monster, and this monster has no way to fucking do anything other than, oh, well, you get sanctioned. That's some fucking bullshit. There's something that happened in fucking Russia today. St. Petersburg. Russia. Something happened in Russia. Okay, yeah, there we go. CBS News. We're moving on from fucking North Korea. We're moving on to fucking Russia. Okay, so from CBS News, early this morning, Vladimir Putin says St. Petersburg blast was a terror attack. The explosion at a supermarket in Russia's second largest city was a terrorist attack, President Vladimir Putin said Thursday, adding that another attack had been thwarted. The Russian president also said he had given orders to law enforcement to act decisively in the face of threats to life. At least 13 people were injured Wednesday evening when an improvised explosive device went off at a storage area for customers' bags at the supermarket in St. Petersburg. Investigators said the device contained 200 grams, 7 ounces, of explosives and was rigged with shrapnel to cause more damage. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack. $10, it's ISIS! Putin made his comment Thursday at an award ceremony at the Kremlin for troops who took part in Russia's Syria campaign, but did not offer any details. He also said another terrorist attack had been thwarted in St. Petersburg, but did not elaborate. Putin has portrayed Russia's operation in Syria as a preemptive strike against terrorism at home. He said the threat of attacks at home would have been much worse if Russia had not intervened in Syria. What would have happened if those thousands of terrorists that I have just spoken about, hundreds of them, had come back to us trained and armed, he said, in comments to the Russian news agencies. When facing threats of life, Mr. Putin said he ordered law enforcement officers to act decisively, do not take prisoners, and eliminate the bandits on the spot. Earlier this month, President Putin telephoned President Trump to thank him for a CIA tip that helped thwart a series of bombings in St. Petersburg, Putin's hometown. The Federal Security Service said 7 suspects linked to the Islamic State of Syria and Iraq, ISIS, group were arrested in connection to the alleged plot. The Kremlin said the suspects had planned to bomb Kazan Cathedral and other crowded sites. In April, a suicide bombing in St. Petersburg subway left 16 dead and wounded more than 50. Russian authorities identified the bomber as 22-year-old Kyrgyz-born Russian national. This. Alright, I'm going to suck Putin's dick for a minute. Here's my collusion with Russia. This Act decisively. Do not take prisoners. Eliminate the bandits on the spot. Act decisively. If there wasn't so much fucking goddamn bullshit about the 2016 election, I would be jonesing for an alliance with Russia. Because unfortunately, this is a world leader, and this is going to sound fucking weird coming from me, but this is a world leader that, as much as I would love to go up in a fight against his troops, because he's done some stupid fucking things in Europe, and he's been very antagonistic. But at the same time, I can't think of someone else other than the English that I would want on my side for a fight. This is the harsh reality of Russia. I mean, on one fucking hand, they're pulling bullshit in the Ukraine. They're pulling bullshit in Georgia. They're pulling bullshit in fucking Syria. They're facing against, supporting Bashar al-Assad in Syria. And I want to fucking strangle the Russian people. And why the fuck do you keep electing this shitbag? But on the other hand, shit like this comes out. Act decisively. Do not take prisoners. Eliminate the bandits on the spot. He puts Russians first. That speaks wholly for his country and him as a leader. He puts Russians first. And that's the thing I like about Donald Trump. Oh, you think I'm just going to rip on Donald Trump, but I'm not. He's putting Americans first. If there's one thing that I can say that President Donald Trump does very well is he puts Americans first. And I like that. I don't like to be put behind people in some far-off country that I've never even fucking seen or heard or been to. And I like that this is a playbook that I'm seeing more and more world leaders moving towards. But they're not G20 leaders. Except for like Russia. Russia's one of them. Whereas more countries are looking for inclusion and don't get me wrong, I'm all for inclusion. I'm all for, other religions. I'm all for fucking immigration. Don't get me wrong. But the issue here is that I remember watching this interview a few years back. President Putin was talking about, when you come to Russia, you must learn Russian. We do not make concessions for those who do not speak the language. And he wasn't talking on the government level. Of course there's concessions. If you're speaking, if you need an interpreter will be provided for you. But you must learn the language. You must learn the culture. You become a Russian. And that's what I like how America is moving towards. When you come to America, you become an American. I like how President Trump is pushing for Americans first. I like how we as a country are starting to realize that the current feminist movement that is anti-man and inspires restaurants to open up that offer a gender gap taxation where I have to pay 18% tax on my coffee versus the regular 7 or 11, depending on what state I'm in. I like how we're seeing past the bullshit and the divisiveness of Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, blah, blah, blah. I just realized that we're all human. I like how the population as a whole is seeing us as Americans. And we're starting to move towards that. And we all just want to live our fucking lives and just do what Americans do, which is go after our own American dream. But it's very evident after these past 20 years of Russia being in a democracy, quote unquote, that they have a leader that's not afraid to fucking do things. We just have a leader that has no goddamn tact. And that's the aggravating part. On the world stage, Russia is getting more well received than the United States. That is the aggravating part. That is what bothers me. Okay. So, of course, since we're on a fucking Russia binge, Russia warns the U.S. don't meddle in upcoming presidential election. Oh shit, here we go. Russian President Vladimir Putin's government has issued a warning to the U.S. don't meddle in this country's upcoming election. I'm sorry, we don't! Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova accused the U.S. this week of direct interference into the electoral process after the State Department criticized Russia's decision to ban opposition leader and anti-corruption activist Alexei Navalny from running for president. A State Department rep has decried the Russian government's ongoing crackdown against independent voices, from journalists to civil society activists and opposition politicians. Good. According to a statement obtained by Business Insider. We urge the government of Russia to hold genuine elections that are transparent, fair, and free, and that guarantee the free expression of the will of the people consistent with its international human rights obligations, the State Department said. Zakharova suggested the U.S. was meddling in the Russian election by issuing such comments. Now, earlier I talked about public opinion on a global scale. This is what I'm talking about. We still have the power to where when we say we urge the government of Russia to hold genuine elections that are transparent, free, and fair, and that guarantee the free expression of the will of the people consistent with its international human rights obligations, that the receiving country, Russia in this case, responds with, don't meddle in our affairs. Our opinion of other countries is still apparently held very highly. Because what do we represent? We represent freedom and democracy. And when anyone tries to have a democratic election, of course the UN, the birthplace of modern democracy, the US is going to get involved. We are the birthplace of modern democracy. So of course we're going to urge the government to hold genuine elections. And now Russia's pissy. Yeah, I know. I sucked Putin's dick for a minute. Now I'm not. I know. I play both sides of the fence, ladies and gentlemen. This statement by the U.S. Department of State, which I'm sure will not be the only one, is a direct interference into the electoral process and the state's domestic affairs, Zakharova wrote in a Facebook post. Several Russian news outlets, including the state-owned TASS news agency, reported Zakharova's comments this week. Zakharova's accusation comes amid an ongoing investigation by Special Counsel Robert Mueller into Russia's own interference in the 2016 presidential election. And this is where the sweet irony comes. Do we, as a country, continue to comment and meddle? Do we interfere with their elections like they possibly have with ours? Or do we take the bigger route? Do we not be the vengeful little pricks that Americans are, because we are a vengeful group of motherfuckers? And do we be the bigger man and let them have their little election where Putin's going to win again, because that's how it always is? And do we just sit and watch? That is the headache here. Hopefully, President Trump has the tact to be a bigger man and just sit and watch. And we issue no more fucking statements. We've said our piece. We should no longer say any more. Continuing on the article. The U.S. intelligence community has expressed high confidence that Putin's government used an influence campaign during the election to undermine public faith in the U.S. democratic process, denigrate Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton, and harm her electability and potential presidency. That's not just Russia. That's not. That is from... Part of it is from people being retarded and blaming the parties for their own problems. You know, it was because of Obama I wasn't able to get that loan from that mortgage. You know, shit like that. But yes, high confidence is not a good sign. We should not retaliate in kind. We are bigger than that. We are better than that. We are the goddamn United States of America. And if they want to have their own interpretation of an election, let them. But just because there's a high confidence that they meddle in ours does not mean we need to meddle in theirs. That's my opinion. Russia's next presidential election is slated to take place in March. Putin, who officially announced this month he would be seeking a fourth presidential term, is expected to win easily. Oh, I wonder why. His administration, however, has taken significant steps to ensure that Navalny, who submitted his documents to register as a presidential candidate on Sunday, is scrubbed completely from the minds of voters. The Central Election Commission ruled on Monday that Navalny would be barred from running against Putin, citing the activist's earlier conviction for embezzlement. Navalny and his supporters argue the move was politically motivated. We won't have an election because Vladimir Putin is horribly afraid. He sees a threat in competing with me, Navalny said in a video released after the decision. He'll give an instruction to his servants from the Central Electoral Commission to reject my registration. According to the New York Times, President Putin's government has also threatened Navalny with legal action if he continues to call for a boycott of the election, something he's done repeatedly this week. To all of you little fucking shit stains, I would say they'd rather live in Russia. Please note that you can also get sued if you call for a boycott of an election. Yep. That's what they got over there. We are the bastion of freedom and democracy. Don't you ever fucking forget it, you little shit stains that sit there and say that we are not and you want to go back to socialism. We are a bastion of freedom and democracy. Well, technically we're a constitutional republic, but whatever. Democracy. Don't fucking do stupid shit. God, don't please, President Trump, please, for the love of God, for the love of Christ, do not meddle in the retardedness that is this. Alright. We're going to do some house cleaning, then we're going to do my final thoughts, and then we're going to get the fuck out of here. So, real quick, upcoming, we have this wonderful guest on January 4th, next Thursday. Brett Mengo from the Sparta Project. No two veterans or first responders face the same exact issues, but as peers, the Sparta Project knows how to help. They guide, inspire, and heal veterans and first responders who suffer from post-traumatic stress. They are dedicated to healing the invisible wounds of war and service, and that'll be next Thursday on Sergeant's Time with ICE. Also, we have wonderful nonprofit partners. We have Project Overwatch. As always, their Paw Patrol campaign is still active. This is the campaign that puts the cameras on the dogs, creates codependency and independency between the canine and the handler, and allows for better situational awareness. Remember, they are entirely nonprofit, so every dollar you donate will go to the campaign, as well as go to assist things to help them with equipment shortages in the law enforcement and firefighter community. And as always, Rangers lead the way. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Also, War Horses for Veterans. Great set of guys, great set of land, lots of horses. It's a wonderful 3-day horse and networking experience. You get the opportunity to bond with horses, hang out with your fellow veterans, tell your no shit there I was stories, and in a nice, comfortable country environment. I know Ice and Red Leg went out there, rode some horses, lassoed each other. I don't know, maybe one of them got him by the foot and was able to drag him, hog tie him behind the horse. But yeah, it's just a nice peaceful break, get some good Midwestern food, just to relax. I would definitely head over to warhorsesforveterans.com and check them out. Also, don't forget to check out our affiliated radios. We have the show The Veterans Report, which shows on 94.1 and 620 KHB, tagged in the description above. Every Saturday, Veteran Reports does a show. I believe it's you can hear us there at 6 Eastern, and they also rebroadcast us. So yeah, check out the Veterans Report, give them a like, see what they're talking about. And they talk about everything from medical marijuana to things like the historical events, military historical events like the Christmas truce. So yeah, definitely give the Veterans Report a check out, and definitely check out their parent station 94.1 and 620 KHB, linked in the description. Please do not forget, we have a show every night of the week. We have every Tuesday and Thursday. We have Jose's Taco Truck at noon Eastern. Every Thursday night, we have Sergeant's Time at 2000 with Ice, Mike Golf, whole bunch of people. I think maybe Minx is going to be showing up tonight, so it should be fun. Fridays, we have Friday Night Freedom with Minx and Mud Puppy. Saturdays, we have the most savage night of radio, Saturday Night Savagery, with Jay Reddy and Pookie. Sunday, we are continuing the triumphant return of the Green Room with Jason and Charlie, our 420 friendly show. Please remember DD214 to participate in any 420 activities. Monday, we have our flagship show hosted by Ice, the Monday edition, where we recap everything that's happened over the weekend. Tuesdays, we bring it back with Jose's Taco Truck, and Tied Up Tuesdays with Minx and Grey Cloud. Eventually, be sure to ask Minx about 19.1 inches and Summer. All right, and with that being said, oh my fucking God. Oh my fucking God. To sum up today, everyone's fucked. The president's a fucking the president's a fucking idiot. Representative Lee is a fucking idiot. Everyone's just absolutely retarded. How do we fucking adjust for that? How do we adjust for the stupidity? We vote. We are active participants. We are coming into midterm elections. Make your voices be heard, because in this country, at least, you're not going to get sued for saying to boycott an election. So make your voices fucking heard. As this year progresses forward, as we get close to the midterm election, I will be focusing more and more on those key states, Ohio, Florida, etc., that are having massive Senate and congressional races going on. So please stay tuned here to Jose's Taco Truck every Tuesday and Thursday to get caught up in the midterm elections and how that will potentially affect us as in the country as a whole. Other than that, Russia fucking sucks. Way to go for the St. Pete takedown and giving your officers the ability. And I wish our officers here in the United States had that backing. I wish everything they did didn't have to be second-guessed and questioned. And as always, to our brothers and sisters overseas, God bless and Godspeed home. And with that being said, I'm going to go have lunch with my wife, drink some more desk whiskey, and I will catch you all tonight for Sergeant's Time with the great and infamous Ice. Shots!
Photograph, tell me what it is to see when you look at me. Deep into the photography, I don't really need your sympathy, just tell me your thoughts. Have I got what they got, and is it a plot done for naught? Am I not like you because I do what I do? Who knew that I could lose a few of you cause I bleed blue? But it's true, I know cause I see it every day as I work and I sleep the day away. Like you I have pain and like you I have fear. Can I pay all of the bills and still make it through the year? Will I make it home alive? Should I pray to the sky every day and every night? Will I hold you by my side? But in the public eye, I don't even have a heart. A robot of the system moving only when I'm told to start. Rip apart my art, I'm strong like a flower blooming. You got it all wrong, I know I breathe, and like you see, I see. And like you need, I need. And like you bleed, I bleed. Don't treat me like an object, I'm tested and proven. Mind, heart, and soul, I'll always be a human. Like you breathe, I breathe. And like you see, I see. And like you need, I need. And like you bleed, I bleed. Don't treat me like an object, I'm tested and proven. Mind, heart, and soul, I'll always be a human.
Call me a vet like a soldier. Green beret, 21 gun salute, don't wanna see the day. In the constant war zone, in the home of the brave, where they hate the police until they saving the day. I got kids like you, a mortgage like you, so blue lives matter, and so does yours too. All this separation and divide, open your eyes. If you cut us all open, we the same inside. The only difference is I run to the gunfight. Your peace when it's chaos, when the people don't act right. But I'm under scrutiny for trying to protect me. You pull a pistol and I'm shooting for trying to contest me. I got a quick second to make a deadly decision. The media betrayed me like a kid for a living, like I'm cold with no heart, a brain with no thoughts, a body with no feeling, a life with no cause.
Like you breathe, I breathe, and like you see, I see. And like you need, I need. And like you bleed, I bleed. Don't treat me like an object, I'm tested and proven. Mind, heart, and soul, I'll always be a human. Like you breathe, I breathe. And like you see, I see. And like you need, I need. And like you bleed, I bleed. Don't treat me like an object, I'm tested and proven. Mind, heart, and soul, I'll always be a human. I'm damned if I do, and damned if I don't. It's like every single time I say what's on my mind, they go for my throat, they spew evil words. If you are absurd, always grinding, grinning, and killing my soul with these verbs. Hold me down, like I can't can't gasp for air. I'm closed inside of a box like I'm inside Fort Knox. Every time that I'm there, I don't know why they think that I'm different from you. All that's true is I'm like you breathe, I breathe, and like you see, I see, and like you need, I need, and like you bleed, I bleed. Don't treat me like an object, I'm tested and proven. Mind, heart, and soul, I'll always be a human. Like you breathe, I breathe, and like you see, I see, and like you need, I need, and like you bleed, I bleed. Don't treat me like an object, I'm tested and proven. Mind, heart, and soul, I'll always be a human. Like you breathe, I breathe, and like you see, I see, and like you need, I need, and like you bleed, I bleed. Don't treat me like an object, I'm tested and proven. Mind, heart, and soul, I'll always be a human. Like you breathe, I breathe, and like you see, I see, and like you need, I need, and like you bleed, I bleed. Don't treat me like an object, I'm tested and proven. Mind, heart, and soul, I'll always be a human.
WTF Nation Radio. WTF Nation Radio.